Who's you got your Badger shirt on there?
I
Who's
do.
The
I think
who's
it's
gonna be the
old school.
quarterback this week?
Alex Hornibrook.
You just a gut feeling, or you
No,
feel
I think it's
you got
a done
inside
deal.
info?
I got a little inside info, yeah. Paul called me last night and said, I'm going with a kid I brought along from Pennsylvania, and he's going to quarterback against the Sparty, and we're going to go in there and steal one and move on to Ann Arbor in the big house.
I didn't realize that you guys were on like a
It's
weekly call type
he's-
of basis.
He's like number 2 on my speed dial, so yeah, he calls me twice a week usually.
Good. Does he say is Clement going to play?
Corey will play, yes, he will.
Okay, well, good. Hey, we're here with all the big news.
We
today,
got all
then.
the big news. Anything else you want to know?
Well, yeah, we got plenty to talk
Okay,
about this
all
week
right,
because we got to
okay.
rehash all kinds of like football from last
Oh,
week.
get the
look
Packer fans
ahead,
off the ledge.
Get the Packer fans off the ledge.
All right.
Talk a little Badgers with the Michigan State game. We got a lot.
Okay.
We got the Whitewater
Then I'll
returning
shut
to
up.
action. We got the Midwest cross country meet coming up this week. I mean, we got everything going on.
We do.
So we're just gonna get right into it. So stick around. We'll talk about it all here on this episode of Extra Points. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's John Barry over here, and I'm Eric Schmoldt, and we get together. We're going to talk some more sports, and I just think we need to dive right into it because there's a lot to talk about this
There's
week.
A lot. It was a very stressful weekend.
Was it?
Yes, very stressful. Georgia State.
Good thing you survived. Yeah.
Good Lord, that's terrible.
We'll get to the Badgers in a second, and
All right.
all your in-depth knowledge with
All right.
you and your best friend Paul Christ,
Yes.
apparently. But let's rehash and look ahead on high school football this
Okay.
week. Obviously, the big matchup last week was Parker and Craig. Parker jumped out 20-0. Craig fought back 20-14, and Parker pulled away 34-14. So we had each kind of said last week we wouldn't really be surprised with any
No,
result, and
uh-uh.
I don't think that result didn't surprise me. And it was, I guess, the big takeaway was I think Parker's big guys up front
Yep.
kind of really showed up, and like we thought maybe they could throughout this year, and with their backs against the wall, they came out and got it done.
Yeah, I think that's Clayton talked about it. The Parker coach, Clayton Krieger, talked about controlling the line of scrimmage. I think the Vikes were able to do that. And for the Cougars, it's just, again, the defense is so young and so inexperienced that they're just not where they need to be yet. And, they've been exposed a little bit. But, a great game. It was good to see the Cougars make it interesting, get in within a touchdown. And but I think too much DJ Vance and like you talked about, too much of the horses up front.
I think probably the biggest takeaway for me was after the game. I mean, you saw the Parker kids were really excited to have the Rock back for the
Right.
first time in 5 years,
Right.
but they were also, 4 or 5 of them got up in the kind of post-game huddle and said, "Hey, this is great and fun, and we had a great night, but we have to just be getting started because we have a lot left to do. We have improvements still to make." And I think that was the big thing. If you get a team that says, "Oh, we beat our rival, yay," and that's the best we're going to do this year, that's one thing. But it seemed like even right after the game, they were already saying, "This is good, but we need to make sure this is what we do every week."
Right, and another thing to note is that for some of those kids, and I think of a kid like Ed Jacobson, Malik Williams, Jordan Bailey, they'd never beaten Craig in anything. Jordan Bailey played him in baseball, has never beaten him. Ed and Malik both play basketball, they'd never beaten him.
They said they got a JV win before, but this is a little different.
Yeah, I mean, at the varsity level, they had never beaten Craig, so that is a big deal. And, that's why it's probably of all the sports, it's probably still the most heated rivalry because, so much is at stake as far as bragging rights. And, the Cougars have owned it the last 4 years, and the Vikes got it back. And, I'm sure they're hoping to hang on to it for a few years.
And I guess just looking forward for the Vikings now, 2-3, they get the unenviable position of going to Middleton Friday night, though,
Right.
and playing a team that we thought was maybe going to be the Big 8 champs, and they're coming off a loss, so they're
Right.
not going to be. They're going to be a little angry probably. And I guess that'll be the true test: is how does Parker, as they said after the game, they want to keep that going.
Yep.
How do they look against a team that is one of the Big 8's best?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, and I'm not saying they're going to go up there and steal a win because I think Middleton's just a better team. But playing on turf makes a difference for Parker. And I saw that against Madison East, and I think you're going to see that Friday night is that with the kids that they have, with Vance and Toyer and Jaden Ellis and those kids, that turf, you're a little quicker. And Vance should be able to pile up some yards. It's just I'm not sure that Parker's going to control the line of scrimmage like they did against Craig. And the 2 games that they've won, they've dominated up front. And I think the games they've lost the battle in the trenches. So Parker's got to find a way to capitalize if Middleton's going to turn the ball over or Middleton, any kind of mistakes. Parker's got to A, win the field position, B, get something from their special teams, and C, keep that defense off the field. And if they can do maybe 2 of those 3 things, they might have a chance. But it's a tough task, and Middleton is awfully good at home.
I guess even if they don't win, if you can go up there and show,
Right.
make a competitive game as opposed to what some of these games have been early in the season, at least that will show, okay, they're on the right track. And with
Right.
these, the last 3 games are
Winnable
games.
Yep, West, Memorial, and Beloit.
But you have to keep that momentum going, even if that means not necessarily winning, but just being competitive
Right.
with the Middleton team on the road.
And don't lay an egg like you did at Sun Prairie, because then you're right back to
Right.
square one. And I don't think the Vikes will do that. I think they'll put a concerted effort out Friday night, and who knows, maybe they can find a way.
For Craig, it's kind of the opposite thing. You're 1-4 and you're coming off a loss to your rival. Do you fold up tent and call it a season, or you have a chance to beat a Beloit team that's on a long Big 8 losing streak? Do you right the ship a little bit and at least keep some playoff hopes or keep the season alive a little bit?
And I think that comes down to your seniors and that senior class, and guys like Nick Kramer and Sweeney and those guys that might have to just get the troops together and say, look, guys, the season's not over yet. I mean, we got 4 games left. We still got a chance. Parker got in last year with a 4-5 record. Let's just start with Friday night, take care of business at Beloit, and move on from there. And, we know Craig offensively is good enough to put points on the board. They've shown that. It's just a matter of defensively just making stops and getting off the field, and certainly against a team like Beloit, Craig shouldn't have any trouble scoring.
I think it's homecoming too.
Right.
That should help. At least maybe just build a little.
Some ways
a
it
little
helps,
bit
some
more
ways
fire.
it doesn't, and most coaches will tell you they don't like homecoming week because there's so many distractions. But you know what? You still got to lace them up on Friday night and step on the field, and hopefully the Cougars rebound and put forth a good effort Friday and do the same going forward.
To me, the biggest story elsewhere right now is the Southern Lakes, because we had a Delavan Darien team that had Badger on the ropes last week and just couldn't quite finish the game. But that would have been a heck of a win for the Comets. I think that shows they're not a fluke. They're going to be right in the Southern Lakes thing. And now we've got Badger against Wilmot on Friday, a battle of 2 unbeaten teams, and we see exactly who's going to be sitting at the top after 6 weeks with 3 to go. After that one on Friday night.
And Matt Hensler, Badgers coach, just continues to do a great job. I mean, that they lost quite a bit from last year's team. A lot of good players, and I thought coming in that they would not necessarily have to rebuild, but that they'd have some areas of concern. And right now, defensively they're solid. I mean, they don't give up anything. Delavan is real good offensively. Their coach had even told me that when we're firing on all cylinders, we're tough to stop. And what they give up 7 points to them last week. So. Kudos to the Badger defense. The offense just seems to do enough to keep them in games, and they find a way to win. And, hey, it doesn't matter. As long as you get a W, it doesn't matter. They don't give any points for style points. So, you take a W when you can and you move on.
Going to be interesting to see how that Lakes shakes out. Whoever wins that game, you would think would have a real good shot at maybe running the table.
I would think so, yeah.
Because they've gone through the meat of the schedule already. We'll see. Maybe Delavan Darien hasn't played Wilmot yet either, so that could be an interesting game down the road. And in the Rock Valley, what kind of sticks out to you? I think
Clinton is just, oh my goodness, they are just playing really well right now, and they'll get Turner at home this week, and Turner's pretty good team, but boy, the Cougars are just on a roll right now, and Coach Spivak has them just, they're dominating people. I mean, they're not beating people, they're dominating people, and they'll get tested again Friday night, and then I look at the other side, and
just to go off of that, I mean it's probably their last. I'm not saying it's high school.
They won't get tested, right?
You never know what's going to happen on a Friday night, but to have Whitewater, McFarland, and Edgerton as your last 3 games, I mean, if Clinton wins Friday, you got to be feeling pretty good.
You got to be looking at 8-1, and probably a number 1 seed in the playoffs. And if it's like we talked about, if it's Division 5. I wouldn't want to play the Cougars. No. I can tell you that right now. Not in Division 5.
What else were you going to say?
Well, I think we both looked at the schedule, and it's one of those weeks where not a lot of big games stick out. We don't have the big matchups. But again, you talked about just trying to right the ship, and Edgerton's going to Broadhead Judo, 2 teams that Broadhead certainly can't afford another loss, and and they've got their long state playoff run streak intact at 26, I believe, and at 2-3. If they were to lose Friday night, then you're like 2-4, and you got to win out, and they've got some tough games left. So, I mean, it's that time. This is week 6, and for those teams that are going to make a playoff push, it starts now. I mean, this is when you got to do it because you're running out of games and you're running out of time.
Yeah. Some other sports where it's still kind of early, but I wanted to get a quick mention in for volleyball. I think Janesville Craig had an interesting week last week, getting swept by Sun Prairie pretty easily, and then bouncing back and sweeping a Middleton team that, maybe not their best team, but
good bounce
when
back.
you sweep a Middleton team, you're
Middleton in
doing
anything.
pretty good.
You beat Middleton in anything, you've done something because Middleton's good at everything, it seems. But I got a chance to watch Craig against Sun Prairie, and I used to think Emmy Dodge was maybe the best high school volleyball player I've ever seen, and she probably still is, the girl from East Troy that's at Wisconsin now. But this Chauncey girl from Sun Prairie, oh man, can she jump and hit. She's going to Louisville, and I would have liked to seen her in Badger Red because she was impressive against the Cougars and really kind of took over that match and just kind of had her way at the front, left-handed outside hitter who just had a tomahawk for a spike. And it's fun to watch because you don't see a lot of that. You see spikes and kills and things, but to just see a player at that level in high school, and she's only a junior, it's pretty impressive.
And I think we should give a shout out to Edgerton. Won their home meet over the weekend and moved up to number 5 in the rankings, Division 2. I'm going over there tonight, so this will be after. You'll see this after they play East Troy tonight, which is down. But that means you got to beat them at home and prove that you can do it. And that race might get real interesting between East Troy, McFarland, and Edgerton down the stretch here.
Well, like I say, you want to see somebody can jump. Watch Ashlyn Oren because she can jump out of a building.
Well, she can do just about everything. It seems like obviously a track star, and
she can jump. I can tell you that right now.
It'll be fun to watch. And then I think the other big thing for the weekend is the Midwest Cross Country Invitational, 78th
or 9th, the nation's most prestigious and oldest high school cross country meet, and it's down at Blackhawk Golf Course. And I tell you what, it gets bigger and better every year. I know you did a story on it a couple years ago about just what all goes into to getting it ready and getting it set up, and it's crazy how they put it together. But when it comes off, it's impressive because there's a lot of teams. There's
3,000 people are going to run that course.
There's so many things going on with a DJ and food and tents and. It's almost like a little city.
They're kind of like building on every year now too. Yeah. Before the thing starts this year, you can go down. I'm talking to you people out there. You can go down and run the course before the high schoolers even get out there and run it because they're doing a little community race. There's a 4th and 8th grade race I think afterward. Yeah. I mean, if pretty much whatever age group you are out there, you can go run the course and see what these guys and girls that are running in the high school level are running it, and they're doing it well. They have some of the top teams, a lot of the top state runners.
Yeah, I think if the kid from La Follette, Gessner, is running, is it Gesser?
Finn Gessner. Gessner,
He hasn't run in La Follette's last couple of meets. Now, I don't know, that might just be, that's how they do things up there. But if he's running, you take a kid like him, and certainly Nate Farrell from Janesville Craig, Peyton Sippy from Craig on the girls' side. This is a mini state meet, and it's impressive. You hope the weather cooperates because it's just a great event for those people that are just looking for something to do on a Saturday morning. Get down there and you just take it all in because it's a pretty neat spectacle.
Let's cross over to the college ranks real quick. We'll mention that Whitewater is back at home. UW-Whitewater hosting
Morningside, Iowa. 1 o'clock.
It's an NAIA team.
It is.
And they kind of gave Whitewater some trouble last year. So
they won't be bad. They'll be better than the first 2 they played, yes.
So maybe I'll give them a little test here before the WIAC season starts, and we'll talk about that next week. But the Warhawks jump straight into the deep end in the conference schedule.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting to see. And as we mentioned in the preview, the Badgers, a battle of the top 10 or 12 teams in the country, depending on what kind of rankings you're looking at. Going to Michigan State this weekend, coming off a little bit of a hiccup against Georgia State.
I think they got caught looking ahead. I think they were way too vanilla. They didn't show anything, and it almost came back to bite them. But fortunately, Hornibrook came in, made enough plays, and they got out of there with a win, which, again, that's all that matters. But I think lesson learned. Paul Chris said that in his press conference, and hopefully you get Clement back this week, and that opens up the running game a little bit. And I think with Hornibrook, it's a look that Michigan State's got to be a little bit more leery with because he's much more mobile than Houston is. And Bart's pretty much in the pocket, whereas Hornibrook can move on a little bit, can run if he has to, and he presents a little different challenge. But to make your first start as a collegian on the road at East Lansing is pretty big stuff. So hopefully he can handle it. And like you said, you and I talked about it. The Badgers in the next 2 weekends could go 1-1. I'd be fine with that. I would be fine.
Two Michigan road
yep,
games.
Two Michigan road games. If they could win one of them.
The other thing that scares me is that like every running back except for Taiwan Deal is listed as questionable on the injury report. So, I mean, when they showed Corey Clement trying to warm up, he looked fine.
He looked okay. He looked a little gimpy at the end of the runs, but I think if that had been a Big Ten game, I think he would have played. But I think when you're a 35-point favorite, you probably figure you didn't need him, and fortunately they didn't need him, but they almost did. But,
yeah, I almost said it. Maybe they just go see him up
Michigan
at
State
halftime.
looked good against Notre Dame. I think it was an overrated Notre Dame team to begin with, but Notre Dame came back on them at the end, and that defense that's supposed to be so good, the Notre Dame quarterback carved them up pretty good. So. They're going to have to mix it up. They're not going to be able to go in there and just run. They're going to have to mix it up and get the tight ends and the receivers involved. And like I say, just win the special teams battle, win the field position battle, and keep it low scoring and try to get out of there with a 17-13, 17-14 win and move on.
This is the start of the real gauntlet for the Badgers too.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
This is that we talked about the crazy schedule, and this is the start of it. And it's just, I guess you just got to go out and prove that Georgia State game was a fluke, and that the first two games were more of what you are. I wouldn't be surprised to see both. I think we're going to see both quarterbacks at time.
I think so too.
I think Michigan State's preparing for that. I don't know that they're not like that much different, other than the fact that one's a righty and one's a lefty,
right.
But. At least maybe it makes an opponent think a little bit more about what they have to do when they're preparing for you. So,
and I think Hornibrook's got probably a little stronger arm. He's certainly more athletic, but again, it comes down to making decisions and managing the game, and it's a big test for a 19-year-old on the road in East Lansing. So, I think the one good thing, this may sound silly, but I think maybe the good thing in the case of Hornibrook is it's an 11 a.m. start, so he doesn't have all day to sit and think about everything. And if it's a 7 o'clock game or something, then you sit around all day, you think about it. Now you just get up, have breakfast, and go to the stadium and play the game, and maybe the nerves won't be as bad. And like I say, just go out and play the way you're capable of. Don't try to do too many things, and don't try to make that perfect pass or do anything. Just go out and play the way that you're capable of, and hopefully that happens.
Speaking of teams that are trying to figure out how to play up to their capabilities, how about the Packers over the weekend? Or I guess even the first 2 weeks, they haven't been crisp.
They just look out of sorts. Rodgers just looks, and I know it's going to take time with Jordy to get things back in sync, but how many times did you see a pass the other day that, Nelson didn't turn around, or when he did turn around, the ball wasn't where you thought it was going to be, and you can just tell that Aaron's a little frustrated right now, and I think play calling has something to do with it. What'd they say? Lacey and Starks had 7 carries the first half against Minnesota,
But at the end of the day, isn't the play calling on him, because he basically gets to go to the line and
make the
call
call
whatever he wants to.
4th and 1 when they didn't kick the field goal, that came back to haunt him. And then not only that, but Lacey's sitting on the sidelines. And I got a 235-pound bull that if he can't get me 1 yard, then I shouldn't be going for it anyway. But I think right now it's panic mode for some Packer fans, which it's after 2 weeks, but I think they saw a lot of this last year, and I think it's starting to build, and they're just frustrated because, let's face it, when he's on, Rodgers is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league, but
he hasn't been on for like a year.
He hasn't been on, and it just, he was outplayed by Sam Bradford outplayed him. I mean, that's crazy, and it's not all on Rodgers either. I mean, the Vikings put a lot of pressure on. The Vikings are a good team. Their defense is solid. Bradford played great. AP was a non-factor, and usually if AP is a non-factor, the Vikings are in trouble, but they're
2-0, and he hasn't had he's hurt.
Stefan Diggs, Green Bay couldn't guard him. And then the guy, that Wayne's kid, that had 95 pass interference penalties, makes the play of the game at the end. So, I mean, it's too early to panic. Obviously, they get their home opener with Detroit this week, and you hope they can right the ship. But at some point, that offense has just got to start gelling, and they're not right now.
Yeah, you think maybe someday, at some point, it'll just kind of start
clicking. Something will just go off, and they'll put up 45 points, and it'll look like the Green Bay you expect.
I mean, they do get to play like the likes of the Bears, and I mean, there's points in their schedule.
The Bears might not win a game. Seriously, they might not win a game. And now Cutler's out with a broken shoelace or whatever he's got going on, and they may not win a game. They're terrible. Sorry, Bear fans, but they are terrible. Most Bear fans are Cub fans, so you got your Cubs enjoying because the Bears are terrible.
If you're a White Sox fan,
I don't know what to tell you then. Blackhawks. Wait for the Blackhawks.
Do you think? I guess the interesting thing to me as a guy who watches the Lions pretty closely is that this matchup this weekend is kind of between two teams that are sort of in the same spot. The Lions probably should have been 2-0 as well, but they settled for field goals and they had kind of just melted down.
They miss Kelvin?
They do, but they have had
I think they miss
weapons.
him in the red zone. I think they miss him in the red zone.
Now Abdul is hurt, so
Yeah.
I think before that you say, well, they've got enough weapons to spread it around, but you can't be. And they moved the ball fine.
They did,
but
yeah.
they kicked field goals every time down there. And that's not going to win.
Like I
games.
say, you got to score in the red zone besides field goals, and Kelvin Johnson was always so good at just going up and getting the ball, and Tate's not very big. Marvin Jones, is that his name? Marvin Jones, he's not very big. I mean,
he's kind of a big tight end.
He's bigger, but he seems to be hurt a lot. So yeah, it should be interesting. And Stafford's gonna wing it around. You know that, and Bradford was able to really isolate Diggs against the Packers, and I'm sure the Lions will try that same strategy, and especially
a banged up secondary
for Green Bay. So yeah,
it'll be an interesting game. One of those teams is going to be 1-2,
right?
One's maybe.
And Minnesota's heading to Carolina, where I would expect them to get beat. So
whoever wins probably
going to be in first place.
Yeah. So maybe Packers fans just
step back a little bit.
It's understandable to have questions, but
step back, have a little faith in number 12. He's been pretty good to you, so just remember that.
Let's not start going crazy here. They're going to make the playoffs, and that's really when
you don't have Ryan Tannehill. Be thankful of that.
You also don't have who are the Browns starting? Billy Peralta at quarterback this week?
Or Bernie Kosar back?
They'd probably take him.
Probably would take him.
Some rookie that.
5th straight game they've started a different guy going back to last year. That's insane.
He'll probably get
no
hurt
wonder
too.
Cleveland is just awful.
Patriots are on a rookie quarterback. Everybody's on a rookie.
I wonder if Cleveland and Chicago played each other, if they just have the first team to score wins.
Probably be a tie.
Yeah,
6-6.
There'd be 9 people there.
Let's give a shout out to the Jets. Swept the Wilderness over the weekend to start the season. Now they go to the Showcase this week, and they play
some new teams, some teams I've never heard of.
Yeah, you get to see some random teams from around the league. That's the nice thing about the
There were a couple of
Showcase.
names I didn't remember, so good for them, and it'll be interesting to see them get back, and that roster will be complete then, and Joe Dibb will have them ready to play.
Yeah, he sounded excited when I talked to him last week. I think he thinks he has a team that can kind of be like 2 years ago and really contend, and we'll see. The interesting thing every year, they always seem to have a goaltender that's just out of this world.
Right.
And maybe they'll have another one of those.
Maybe they'll find one. Let's hope so. And another shout out to Badger hockey getting going, and Alexis Marmon, Janesville's own, who played at Shattuck, St. Mary Shattuck up in Minnesota, is on the number 1 ranked Badger women's team. So, another chance where you get a chance to watch some good hockey. Go watch the Badgers play with Miss Marmon playing.
Any other shout outs we got to give on? Badger soccer, I'm going to give a shout out to. They tied Delavan Darien last week, so we thought. I think we thought the Comets were going to run the Southern Lights table, and they didn't. A little tie at least, 2-2, I think it was.
I would agree. Yes.
We should probably give a shout out to Erin Donegan.
She's very impressive.
We got to see her at the Craig Parker.
She may find the podium at state. Yeah, she's impressive, and only a junior, and she's gonna be a force at the state meet, I think.
And I guess just a final high school thing. The golfers and the tennis players, I mean, it's basically postseason time already, even though it's barely I think it's a month into the school year, and they're talking postseason. So good luck to all the area girls golfers and girls
Seaman,
tennis
she deserves a shout out. She won the Janesville Parker Invitational and really played well. She hits the ball farther than I could ever dream of hitting a ball. So
I think by the time we sit here next week, or maybe it's that day, regionals for golf already.
Week from Wednesday.
Man, that's
that's crazy. There we are, folks.
So the end of the season before we even know it.
We'll be chipping ice off our windshield.
Let's not
get carried away. All right.
Some people I know we're ready for fall, but I would rather take these 80s than get an early winter.
Totally agree. Keep up the Indian summer, yes.
Yes. So catch us on GazetteXtra.com and on Twitter as we get you through the busy high school sports season and through Football Friday this Friday night. And you can leave us a comment on YouTube or iTunes or send us an email to sports@GazetteXtra.com. And we'll be here again next week. Thanks to Angela and Dave for putting up with us, and for Kevin McLeod for providing the music.
Incredible.
And hopefully we'll be talking about a still undefeated Badgers team when we're
Go
here next
Bucky.
week. See you next week.